Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. I am Midge Noble, your host, and I am glad that you're here. I'm glad that even though we're not sitting across from each other, we're not in the same room necessarily at the same time, but I feel your presence. I know you're here. I hear your voices when you connect with me after a show, and I really appreciate it so very much. I say that every week, but I mean it, and so I continue to say it. I really, really appreciate all that you guys do to continue to support this podcast and our belief that in this podcast, we can open up the minds of people who are willing to hear a different voice, a voice of love and compassion, a voice of inclusion, and a voice that gives all people the right to exist in the way that God has created them to be. So today, I'm going to talk a little about emerging from darkness. So in my life, currently, I feel like I'm beginning to emerge from a darkness. The past few months, probably since the end of January, and even currently, but not so much, I have felt like I've just been in a whirlwind of darkness. Not consistently, because there are people like you and people in my family and my friends that have always been a light for me and helped me and supported me in some illness that I've been experiencing that I just have not been able to shake. It's one of those things that came out of the blue, had no idea what was going to happen with it, continues to be a little problematic, not as much as before, but problematic. I've been pretty much quarantined since February. And there was a possibility in all of the write-ups and things that I read about it that it could get progressively worse. It can reoccur even if you get cleared. It can reoccur. So it's one of those intestinal things that just has knocked me off my stability, my my common ground with other people. It's just been a really difficult time. Through all of that, I also underwent 2 cataract surgeries. They needed to put in stents because I have other eye issues that needed that extra support. So it's like, take all of that and then take how we are in the world right now. And how many of you, I can't see your hands, but I can feel them. So how many of you would raise your hand to say that you feel like you're in this dark hole and it's hard to know how to get out? It's hard to know how to see the light. It's getting increasingly difficult to know how to manage the onslaught of all the information that we get every day, every day. And it does feel dark at times. The thing that came to me today as I was preparing for this podcast is that there really is still light everywhere. Spring has come. The blossoms are blooming. Let's not talk about the pollen. We're talking about the beauty. So spring has sprung. The blossoms are coming out. The yard in front of my house was just so full of color. Azaleas and the rhododendron, which has just gotten massively huge, is in full bloom right now. We had tulips. We had the flame azalea at our house is just amazing. We got this teeny tiny little flame azalea one year from, I think we bought it at one of the stores, or it was gifted to us. I can't even remember how we got it, but we've never been able to find it since. And it is just the most delightful, wonderful, wonderful color of this orangey yellow. It's beautiful, and it's been in full bloom. It's just amazing. And we have primrose coming up, and our little Gerber daisy, which is just this hardy little guy, comes up every year. I'm just so happy that through all of the things that have been going on, that the earth doesn't know the difference between who's in office and who's not. The earth doesn't know the difference between our physical bodies and whether our bodies are in dis-ease or full health. And I learned a long time ago that dis-ease in mind, body, and spirit is not necessarily an illness, and many of our illnesses are also dis-ease, being separated from ease. And ease is the flow that we can have in our relationship with the God of our understanding, that no matter what's going on around us, that we can center ourselves in the center of ease, knowing that we can trust that holy presence, that sacred connection that we have with the God of our understanding is always present. And we could see this in the New Testament, in the letters that the apostles wrote back to churches who were struggling, or churches that they were trying to encourage from jail. They wrote these things from jail. You can imagine back then, it wasn't a cushy federal thing. It was, padlocks and not being fed well and not being bathed and sitting in squalor. It wasn't comfortable. And yet they wrote these letters that said, you know, be happy in the Lord and cling to what you know. And God has not forsaken us. God has not forsaken you. So they knew the secret of finding ease in the dis-ease of life. And that's what you and I are kind of groping for. We've been so privileged to not have to deal with this type of thing in the United States of America. Now, not all of us, those of you who have always suffered the evilness of prejudice and racism and othered, no matter what category you may have been clumped into, you know from your personal experience that you have had dis-ease in society and in churches for a very, very long time. And just in this country, whether or not you were taken off of your tribal lands, whether you were brought here by boats and shackles, whether you had to suffer through a church putting you into an abomination category. Many of us have experienced such backlash from people thinking they were doing God's holy work, when really evil can always disguise itself as something coy, fun, or loving, no matter what is really going on. So for us to understand that there is beauty in the world, there is a common goal between all of us who follow the teachings of Jesus. There is beauty out there to create, to explore, to find, and to just see in what's going on around us. As the earth turns and we come out of winter and into spring, it is a renewal of our understanding, almost like our baptismal renewals that we do around this time. And to remember that even though we've always been connected to God, that our life is always about renewing, because we can't perfectly always be on the path of excitement or feeling great or being well. There's that turning of the earth's axis. There's the turning of our own lives that brings us from a place of just utter illness or depression or sadness or fear, and then it swings up, and all of a sudden it's like the lights came on and the rainbows were out there and the flowers are blooming. And even though that can happen in the middle of winter, it can also happen, of course, in spring. It doesn't matter when it happens, but it's enlightenment when we finally wake up and we say, hey, I've got this. God and I have this. We don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. Now, that's not just fake happiness. It's an understanding that in our fear, in our depression, in our dis-ease in our body, that's not just a single thing that we're going through. It's also including our understanding surrounding all of that internal angst, that we have a connection to a sacred higher being that never leaves us, especially in the times where we feel that we are the smallest, the most afraid, the most ill. The God of our understanding is always present. So when we pause, when we take a breath, when we open up our eyes to continue to find the gratitude for the things that are presently now, because no matter how bad things are getting in the world, in our own United States of America, that is becoming increasingly unrecognizable, right now, today, sitting here, those of us who got legally married are still married. Those of us who are being able to use our credit cards without a man's permission, those of us who are able to buy homes with our beloveds who happen to be our married LGBTQIA plus partner, wife, husband, spouse, whatever you feel comfortable naming that relationship, we are still able to get jobs. We are still able to buy food. We are still able to call ourselves whatever we want to call ourselves. Even if we get all of our rights stripped away, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. That doesn't mean that nobody will ever remember. I was in the formation class yesterday, and we talked about how they are trying to dismantle and start to dismantle the African American part of the Smithsonian. And they're sending things back, like they're going to send the counter from Greensboro back to, I guess, Greensboro. I don't know where they're sending it, but they're trying to dismantle that, and they've started the process apparently. And I'd heard it. I didn't know it was currently happening. I knew that that was something they were wanting to do. But our formation class teacher said, even if they do that, even if they send everything out and they close that wing down, maybe they'll put a placard up saying, this used to be here, maybe not. But those who sat at the counters, those who marched for civil rights, those who continue to fight for the civil rights, those who continue to say that racism is wrong, that it's not about the color of our skin, it's about you not being able to release your own fear of losing power. Nobody can take the memories away from those of us who have it or have shared it with somebody who was actually on the ground in Selma or at that counter in Greensboro. I know people. My teacher was there. The formation class teacher was at that counter. The women of Bennett College were amazing during the civil rights and all the things that they did. So, those people who passed down their knowledge to people after that, no matter what he wants to destroy right now in our country and try to destroy in our history books, we can put it back. We can rekindle that, or we can never let it even go away. The more we post things online, we keep it present. Don't tell me we're not going to have a national holiday for something. Even if somebody's not off of work, you can still celebrate Black History Month, Women's History Month, LGBTQ Pride History Month, wherever that is where you live. So we are the voice of memories. We are the voice of collective history and herstory. And we can remember everything that we've been told and everything we've been through. And that's how we keep our memories alive, as we continue to speak it. We continue to highlight it. our voice, our choices every single day decide whether or not we're going to be wiped away or we're still going to be present. So I want you to remember that. I want you to remember that your voice matters. Even though they're trying to silence so many voices right now, they cannot silence us collectively. And the more we continue to speak out, the stronger we get, the more they have to listen. Because our Congress people, seriously, even in the red state that I live in, and it's a challenge trying to write my senators and representatives because, they are up somebody's behind. So, it's hard, but yet I don't stop doing it because at some point, if enough of us do that, they might say, oh, this may not go really well for me for the next election. And they would be correct. So I want us to remember that we have the power. We have the power to do so many things. And it's only up to us whether we give up or stay in the fight. And the fight is to be authentically us, no matter who is trying to silence us, because we are in charge of us. We are in charge of us. So do not give up, my beloveds. Do not allow the negativity to win. Do not allow people to silence us, because we are emerging from the darkness of believing that this is the way it is and always will be. No. Illness does pass. People in office get replaced. And the things that we're continuing to fight for are still worthy to be fought for. So we will not give in, give up, and we will not claim anything other than light and love, because that is really, really difficult to erase when it is the most powerful driving force in our world today is love. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for listening, subscribing, and sharing. And I really, really appreciate each one of your heartbeats right now. Check out our Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly group entitled My Faith Journey. We're actually running that group tonight, and I'd love to have you join us. So in order to do that, join the Facebook group Gay with God. Answer all the questions. That's a mandatory thing. Answer all the questions so I can invite you inside. And then you'll find the Zoom link for My Faith Journey in the featured section, and you can join us. If you need support to help yourself go through your coming out or faith journey, go to the show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and see how to connect with me. I will offer you a complimentary free session so that we can have a nice visit. We can talk about what goals you may have for coaching and make sure that we're a good match. Help is only a click away. So go down to the show page, empoweredmidge.podbean.com, and you can find the complimentary session link there. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in the relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or not even sure if you're gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been Gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.